Good evening, and thank you for joining us for another Dixon home tour. I'm Chantel Drake, Director of Development Communications at the Dixon, and I want to take this time to say thank you for joining us tonight, but for also being members of the Dixon. We really appreciate your support. Suzanne Allen is going to take us through a tour of her art collection in her home, followed by a Q&A with Director Kevin Sharp and Suzanne. If you have questions or comments or would like to show your support for Suzanne or Kevin this evening, please enter them into the Q&A button or the chat feature in Zoom. Also, after this evening, we hope that it encourages you to come to the Dixon and see our art collection, and not only our collection, but the exhibitions that we have on view: Wayne Thiebaud, Greeley Myatt, and Meet the Dixons. And once again, thank you so much for your support through your membership. We couldn't do any of what we do without you, and we appreciate you so much. Enjoy your night.
Hello everyone, I'm Kevin Sharp. I'm the director of the Dixon Gallery and Gardens, and we're in the home of Suzanne and Walter Allen, and Suzanne is going to take us on a tour of her and their wonderful collection of fine art. Suzanne, thanks for having us.
Well, you're very welcome, Kevin, but I want to go back and say, fine art?
It's very fine.
It's fun art.
And fun. Fine and fun
Yeah.
are not incompatible.
All right, all right. Well, where do you want to start?
Well, you know, there's some pretty good stuff right in the foyer here. How about we begin with this wonderful painting over here?
George Hunt.
George Hunt it is.
Yes. And I think this is Robert Johnson. I can't, I would have to double check that with Walter. But these, Walter loves George Hunt, as do I. And we saw 3 of these, this size, at 1910 Frame Shop, and this was years and years ago. And I decided to buy one of them for Walter's birthday or Christmas or something. I should have bought 3 of them, but I didn't. And this is just pride of place, as you can see. Just walk in the door and here it is. And I have to tell you a funny story about this. We have 4 boys between us, and we were all sitting around the dinner table one night, and they started talking about how much money they were going to inherit from us when we die. And I just looked at them and I said, you boys are seriously confused if you think there's going to be any money for you to inherit. If you want an inheritance, you better walk around this house and pick out some art. And there was complete silence at the table. And finally, the youngest one said, oh, okay then, I'll take the George Hunt. I said, bingo.
Good choice.
Yes.
Good choice
Yes.
indeed. So you think this is Robert Johnson,
I
the
think-
blues legend?
I think it is, yes.
Who went down to the crossroads.
Exactly.
Easily could be.
I will double check that with Walter and let you know.
Okay. It's a wonderful painting.
Yes.
And you're right. It's got pride of place for sure.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Suzanne, tell me about this piece. This is really incredibly beautiful.
Well, thank you. As you might be able to tell just by looking around, we really love local artists. And one of our favorite venues to purchase art is the Works of Heart art show every year that benefits the Child Advocacy Center. This is by a wood artist named Ellen Cox Isaacman, and we have many of her pieces because they are all spectacular. But this is a ginkgo leaf, which is one of my favorite motifs. And it just, I mean, when we walked in that year and saw it, I just said, doing. And I think this actually is one of the years Walter will not lose a bidding war.
Good to know.
And I think this is one of the pieces that he did get into a rather heated exchange right for, but we won it, so we've been very happy with it.
Well, it's just beautiful, and the carving is so nice, and the wood tones, and the way it's anchored.
She is so creative. This is not her full-time job. She owns an advertising agency.
Oh my gosh.
And this is her hobby, believe it or not.
Oh, my word.
So imagine.
She's really good at it.
Yes, indeed, she is. Yeah.
Suzanne, tell us about the Pam Cobb painting.
Oh, Pam Cobb. Pam Cobb is one of my very favorite artists.
Yeah, we like her too. We did a Pam Cobb show at the Dixon.
I know you did, yes. And Pam painted this and donated it to the Wolf River Conservancy for a fundraiser, and we were the lucky winners of this painting. And it has, when we first bought it, we put it at my husband's office. And then when we built this house, or when we remodeled this house, this wall was blank for so long, and I kept thinking, what can I get? What can I put there? What can I put there? And I was in Walter's office one day, and I saw it, and I said, that's coming home with me. And it did, and there it is.
Yeah, yeah. You know, having great art in your office is nice, but this seems like a perfect work
It is.
for the spot.
It is. It just pulled everything together. This room was complete.
Tell me about the chair.
Oh, that's Matthew Hasty. And that was I got that at an Orpheum auction.
Ah.
Now that's not his normal wonderful,
that surprised me.
Yeah, landscape kind of thing that he has, which I do have one of those, a very teeny tiny one upstairs. But I love chairs. I love empty chairs. I love paintings of women in chairs. I don't know why that just resonates with me. Maybe because I'm lazy. I don't know. But
I don't think that's it.
But I really I loved that piece, and just I had to leave early, and I left instructions with a friend of mine to bid on it, and he was kind enough to do that. Well, this is a painting by Julia Williams, another local Memphis artist, and she had a show in the mid-'80s. This is dated '84. I was working in the NBC building at that time, and she had a show in the first floor of the NBC building. Every morning before I went to work, I would just walk through that show. Everything she did was just so beautiful, but I really loved this one. And I was standing in front of it, looking at it one morning, and a gentleman came up to me and he said, you know, I see you in here every morning looking at these paintings, and especially this one. You must really like it. I said, oh, I do. And he said, well, you ought to buy it. Well, it was, I think, $400. And I said, well, I can't. I just bought a house. I don't have any extra money, and that's just out of my range right now. And he said, well, you know, I know artists, and I happen to know this artist, and I know that they like to get little bits of money at a time so that they can buy art supplies and things like that. Why don't you give me your name and phone number, and I will contact her and see if you can pay for this over time. How much do you think you could afford? And I said, well, I probably can pay $50 a month. And he said, well, let me check it out, and I'll call you later today. I said, okay. So I went to work, he went to work, and that afternoon he called me and he said, I've got this all worked out. She's delighted to do this, and here's her address. You just send her $50 a month. When the show comes down, you take that painting home. And I said, well, God, thank you so much. And it turned out that that gentleman was Tom Garrett, who was the president of the bank and the holding company and everything else. And it really made an impression on me, beyond the favor that he did me, that he would take his time out of his busy day and do this. It just really, I've never forgotten it, and I never will forget it, and it has impacted me far more than he probably would ever know.
Tom Garrett's a major supporter of the Dixon, and it doesn't surprise me a bit.
Oh, okay.
That he would take an interest.
Well, good to know. Another wonderful local artist, Jim C. Ayers. Jim C. usually does southern scenes, magnolias, things like that, although she has kind of branched out in recent years. But we were in a gallery in Oxford, Mississippi, and saw this, and it was an opening for her, and she was there. And we asked her, you know, what is this? It looks like North Carolina. And she said, well, it is North Carolina because our daughter is going to school at Appalachian State, and we pass a house on our way there that's not exactly like this, but this is how I feel like it is. And so I just had to paint it. And at that time we had a house in North Carolina, and so that was very special to us. And we bought that painting during her show.
Gypsy's marvelous. You know, we just did a show of her work.
Yes,
fairly
yes,
recently.
yes, and such a nice person.
And such a nice person.
Yes,
I
yes,
totally agree.
yes. Well, I hardly know where to start in here.
A lot of great things.
There's a lot of my favorite things are in here. Let's see. Well, can we start with this? This is another Ellen Isaacman piece that we purchased at one of the Works of Art auctions. Just beautiful. You know, it is a heart, but it also makes me think about angel wings too. And I love everything about it. Another Ellen Isaacman piece is this table. She and her husband Dale made this table for us, and it has been through a couple of incarnations. It started out much smaller and then needed some repair, and during the repair they made it to fit this room. So just what absolute craftsman artists.
It's just beautiful. I mean, the grain of the veneer and the wood.
Everything.
The tones of the two, it's just beautiful.
Everything about it is fabulous. And the glass pieces we bought from a glass artist at the Pink Palace Crafts Fair. His name is Joe Becker. I believe he's from Minnesota. One of those Michigan or Minnesota. It's an M state. But we really like his work as well. And then coming around, this is a North Carolina artist named Willie. At least that's the artist name that he uses. And Willie sadly is passed away, and he was a street person. He had some mental illness, but he was also, I think, a very gifted artist and a gallery owner in Blowing Rock, North Carolina. Kind of took Willie under his wing and helped him sell his paintings and he kept the money. It was kind of like a trust fund thing, so that he was taken care of, but just it was a sad thing, and he did pass away. But he's interesting. I don't know if you can see, every painting he puts in a little boat, and he has a river and an angel. Those are his recurring themes.
It's got a real expressionistic feel.
Yes.
You know, just very lively paint, and yeah.
Has a lot of energy.
It does. It does.
Yeah. And coming on around, this is another Ellen Isaacman carving, also works of art.
I feel like I'm almost able to spot them.
I know it. I know. This is Pottery Barn.
I know that artist.
This is another North Carolina painting, and it has an interesting story, but it's very long, so just take it from me, it's very interesting. And this is a local Memphis artist, Robbie McQuiston, and I love to tell this story. I have my nephew Andrew was about 8 years old, and he was visiting us, and at the house we were in then, this painting was over our fireplace. And Andrew was just sitting on the couch, and he was looking at this painting, and finally he said, "Aunt Suzanne, that's real art, isn't it?" And I said, "Well, yes, Andrew, it is real art, but what makes you think that it's real art?" And he said, "Well, when I first looked at it, I thought it was pretty simple, and I said to myself, I could do that. And then the more I looked at it, the more questions I had, like, where is this? Is that boat coming or going? Who's in that boat? What are they doing?" He said, "And that's what I think real art does." And I just think that is the greatest story, and especially an 8-year-old.
Yeah, not bad.
Really.
Not bad.
Yes. And this also is a North Carolina artist named Bob Brown, and he blew the glass shade and he fabricated this metal base.
Wow.
He's very talented.
Those are two very different skill sets.
Right, right. This is a North Carolina artist, although we purchased this piece at a gallery in New Orleans. His name is Mitchell Lonus, and I just think this technique is so cool. He gets a piece of sheet metal and he bakes on black automotive paint. Then he's developed these special etching tools, and he comes in and etches the black automotive paint away to reveal whatever he's doing. This is a bird's nest. He has beautiful waterfalls, all different kinds of things that just, when people come in here, they really think it's a three-dimensional piece. It's so striking.
It really does. It reads dimensionally.
Mm-hmm.
No question about it.
Yes.
And I was surprised when I saw that it was revealed through subtraction.
I know.
rather
And
than
can you
addition.
imagine? I mean, you have to get this pretty perfect.
Yeah.
Because if you make a mistake, you just have to start all over. I was just blown away by it. We can't leave without me pointing out another couple of Ellen's pieces. This is a box that she made, and I wonder if I can even open it. It opens up, and it's really cool. And this is a heart lamp, and it turns on, and it puts, you can't see it in this light, but it puts a little heart. Well, maybe you can right here. Puts a little heart on the wall
Well, it does.
behind
I
it.
can see it perfectly.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's charming.
I just thought that was so clever.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Well, Suzanne, thank you so much for having us over. I'm looking at this wonderful still life.
Oh, well, this is the piece that when I took the class from Pam Cobb, and she
Right.
had us do the self-portrait with objects. This is the piece that I did.
So we're looking at you.
Yeah.
It's
Oh.
identical. Identical. Well, thank you so much for having us.
You are so
And
welcome.
we'll take some questions from our viewers. And thank you again. This was marvelous.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.
Sorry.
No,
We have dogs.
No worries, no worries. So Eli's all ready for his cameo.
Of course, he's just totally quiet throughout the whole thing. And then the minute we unmute, he starts barking.
Of course, he knows when the microphone is hot. That's good. Well, we're gonna have to see Eli at some point during this Q&A phase. And I would just repeat that we are visiting this evening with Suzanne and Walter Allen and their charming little dog Eli. And thank you so much for that incredible tour. It was
It was great.
well, it was fun.
It was fun.
And it was so much fun that I'll tell the folks who are tuned in that we did it twice because we had a technical difficulty in the first time we recorded. And I have to say, it felt exactly the same the second time. Very, very, very spontaneous, very sincere. It's obvious that you guys have a great love for works of art. And that's, for someone like me, that's always something nice to encounter. So tell me this, how did you guys get interested in art? Was it something that you grew up with? Were your parents interested in art, or is it something that came to you later? Or tell us about it a little bit.
Well, in my family, I have a great uncle who was an artist, and everybody in my family always referred to him as Uncle Joe the artist. But we had some of his paintings in our house, but not much else.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember when I started getting interested in art, but it just has been such a part of my life for so long.
Right.
What about you, Walter?
But yeah, Walter.
Well, I think this came through my friend at 1910 Framing Works, Davey Weeks. I asked him to help me start making a collection of local artists, which I had an interest in and knew something about. And one thing led to another. And the next thing I know, I have too much art for my walls and I'm out of space. This happens.
Yeah, it definitely happens. That I would say that that friend is also could quite possibly be called your enabler, and which can happen, which can happen sometimes. I've been called any number of people's collectors an enabler for them, but it's marvelous that you had instincts for the artists in your community, and I know that that's something that it's something that happens in Memphis, I think, quite a lot. And I think it's something that it makes Memphis a very special place because
Well, we have such great artists here.
Yeah, well, it's true. You want to elaborate on that a little bit, Suzanne?
Yeah, I mean, I can just spout out any number of names.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, a lot of them got out of my price range real quick. I can tell you probably right off the top of my head 5 or 6 or 10 artists in Memphis that I would love to have some of their work. That it's just not going to be in this lifetime. So,
well, I think it's just special though when a community embraces its artists, because it doesn't necessarily happen in every city, and Memphis is great about that. And you're right, Memphis is a great visual arts city. It's got a truly thriving culture of painters and sculptors and video artists and printmakers, and that's a really, really positive thing. And they are incredibly accessible. Yeah, I mean, there's some, of course, that are out of my price range as well, but that doesn't mean I can't see them. I can't see that work. Can't
exactly
encounter it in places, and that's you don't always have to own it. So tell me, how do you? I mean, you get to you probably have an agreed upon family budget for purchasing works of art, but how do you decide what you buy? When you actually pull the trigger, what does that decision-making process look like?
It's just a very spontaneous and intuitive thing.
Mhm.
We always have our eyes open. Everywhere we go, we look at art. We go to a lot of openings here. We go to a lot of art auctions, charity things here. And if something really hits us, then we try to buy it.
And so do you always come to a consensus? Are you always in agreement? I mean, are your tastes in kind of perfect alignment, would you say?
I don't know about the word perfect, but they're close enough. I mean, we like the same things. I can think of one piece that Walter wanted to buy that I wasn't really crazy about, but I'm sure there's plenty of pieces that I really wanted to buy that he wasn't crazy about, and we bought them. So
if we come to an auction basis and I think I would like to buy it, I'm an aggressive bidder. I will stare you down, and I will go till I have almost no money left in my checking account, and I will outbid you.
Well,
I have been outbid. There are people who are more interested in a piece than I am, but I like the sport of it. I like the competition level, and I like the fact that the artist is going to benefit.
Mm-hmm. Well,
or the charity that's in this promoting it.
You know what they say, Walter, there's no more important person at an auction than the underbidder, and so you're always, you're right. Somebody's going to benefit one way or another. And
there have been a couple of instances where we were outbid, and we later contacted the artist and purchased another piece.
Well, there you go.
So-
Now that's everybody wins in
Mhm.
that scenario. That's great. That's great. So, but there's none that there are no acquisitions, especially among the works that we just saw in your tour, Suzanne, that were controversial in any way.
No, we both just honed
Yeah,
right
this
in
is-
on those. Yeah.
we should have this. That's great. That's great. And I mean, it's the same way in my house. I kind of get to be something of a curator at the Dixon, but not on Good Bar Avenue. It's a collective enterprise here.
Right.
Yeah.
So who's responsible for where everything goes in the house? Who hangs the paintings? I mean, who decides where the paintings hang?
You should see us do this. We recently got a new painting from an artist that we love, and we tried it out in every room, and we were shifting things around, and we finally had to take a piece down and move it into our upstairs art storage area to have a place to put this thing. We agreed on it. It ended up where we
I
wanted
guess-
it.
That you can probably figure out who lost in the discussion.
That's not true.
I'm outvoted,
That is not
Well-
true.
Well,
but I have the hammer and the little nail set and the tape line. So I actually hang the photograph of the painting or whatever it is and place
Right.
it. But Suzanne tells us ultimately where it's going to go.
well, the only reason I bring it up, and I'm not trying to create controversy here, but the only
We
reason
got
is
more
because-
problems than that.
it's just because it's also beautifully presented in your home.
Thank
and
you.
It looks just, like it's very thoughtfully arranged, and it's just nice to, I mean, I think it's, you can definitely feel it more when you're in your home, but I think it even comes through a little bit in the video. Now, we've got some questions, and a few people are asking the same question, and I think they want to know who is on your dream collector list that you don't have yet. Can you think of an artist? Not that I'm trying to plug anyone particularly, but who do you not have that you think that might be in reach, but you haven't collected yet? Have you thought
Oh,
about
gosh.
that?
Well, let's see. I can tell you a couple of people that are not in reach that we have not collected, and that would be Carol Clore
True.
Yeah.
and Mary Sims.
Mary Sims is wonderful.
And I wish that this had been in. I'd had a little advance notice about this because I'm terrible remembering names. What about you, Walter? Anyone you can think of? There's a bunch of them. Just let me
Yeah.
say
Well,
that.
we have some artists from Penland that we've been following from the Penland School of Crafts that we think that are very special that, frankly, they've just been out of our price range. but
Christina Cordova, who is a sculptor in North Carolina.
North Carolina.
She is a genius. And oh gosh, I would love one of her pieces.
And remind me, Suzanne, weren't you on the board at Penland?
I was on the board,
Oh,
yes. I
And
was.
tell us what and Penland is.
Penland School of Craft is in Penland, North Carolina, and it is a craft school started almost 100 years ago to help the women in that area. It was during the Depression, and so a lady started Penland to help women get some income through weaving. And so she taught these women how to weave, and then it just grew into a gorgeous, special, beautiful campus. And they have weaving and glass blowing and pottery and photography and is metalworking. It's just, I'm sure that a lot of the people who are listening to this video are very familiar with
Yeah.
Penland.
It's quite well known, and it's a place you can visit, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I would just want to add that we're going to miss the Memphis College of Arts.
Yes.
Yeah.
All the artists that they fostered and who have, taken courses and gotten degrees from Memphis College of Art and produced work and been in the Memphis area. It's irreplaceable as far
Right.
as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I didn't have a chance to show you all the pieces by Bill Price and Don Dumont that we
Right.
have throughout the house. And there are many others who were affiliated with the College of Art that we just love.
Well, that's for sure. I mean, there are a lot of Memphis's most really outstanding artists have some kind of affiliation. Either we're alumni of the school or professors at the school. And I mean, that's not to say that Rhodes doesn't have an outstanding art program. And, frankly, I think the University of Memphis School of Art is, I mean, I'm a little biased because I'm on the College of Communications and Fine Arts board, but that's a tremendous art program. Artists like Greeley Myatt and Beth Edwards and Jed Jackson and Richard Liu are just some of my favorite artists in the city of Memphis. And that's kind of what we were getting at earlier. I mean, music has a way of kind of sucking all the air out of the cultural conversation about Memphis, but it's a really strong visual arts city. And you even if you just follow online or get the email blast from the Dixon or from the Brooks or from the Metal Museum or from Crosstown, you see pretty quickly how dynamic the visual arts community is. And then when you tap into things like, the Heart Ball or any number of other events that artists so very generously donate to,
Absolutely.
it just gives you a sense of how really, really impressive this city is. And if you plug into that arts community the way you guys obviously have, it's also just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's see. Someone wanted to know. I think I actually know the answer to this, but someone has said, I love the heart lamp from the end of the video. Who is that artist?
Ellen
Ellen
Isaacman.
Isaacman. I thought so. She's really incredible, and she is. This isn't her job A.
No. She's so talented and creative. It just blows my mind.
See, I'm glad you embrace it because I find people like that really annoying. You shouldn't be able to be that good at two things, Yeah. I have a friend who was a neurosurgeon, a very successful neurosurgeon, and sold his practice about 10 years ago and told me he was going to take up painting. And I was like, yeah. He's super good. It's maddening.
It is, isn't it?
It's like, why do you get all the talent?
He probably has an eye for detail that it goes beyond the typical person that allowed him to be a neurosurgeon to do that level of specificity in his procedures.
We
would miss it.
Right. I think
we would miss it.
I think you're exactly right. And so I've got another question here. Hey, let me share this first. I've got a comment from Brenda Swain, and said she definitely passed her love of art down to her children. Hi, Mom. Okay. And then,
like a homeboy.
Brenda's our daughter-in-law.
Okay, good. And then here's a question. Your collection is diverse and gorgeous, but definitely eclectic. I think that's a compliment, really. What do you think draws you in? Is there some common theme to all of the work that compels you to any particular artist?
No, I would have to say no to that. I believe that maybe it's just my peripatetic brain. I don't know, but I'm just drawn to a lot of different things, and Walter is too. Um,
Mhm.
when I was a teenager, I told one of my friends that when I grew up, I wanted to be eccentric. And she said, Suzanne, you're already eccentric. So maybe that's it. I don't know.
Maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. Yeah, I mean, I would be hard pressed. I mean, because I kind of like all the flavors too, and if I suddenly lined up all the works of art that Aaron and I own, I don't know that you would find a common thread that flowed through all of them necessarily. It's more, either relationships with the artists themselves or just things that spoke to us at any given moment. It's hard to really latch onto something where I've got this finely honed personal aesthetic, and every work I own has to have X.
Right.
This
Yeah.
doesn't.
I'm not that good.
Yeah, well, I'm not either. I'm not
I
either.
think it is said that artists are right brains. They operate off the right side of the brain. And Suzanne and I are left brain people because we're logical, kind of boring, if you will.
Accountants.
You're not boring.
So that being said, the artist side brings something to your imagination and to your perspective that you hadn't thought of, or you would never think of yourself. So you have to appreciate that.
Yeah, that's well said, Walter. I agree. I understand completely. So here's another question. Do you feel any differently about the works you purchased at auction versus the works you purchased from galleries or directly from the artist? Is there a certain process that endears you more to it?
I wouldn't.
Yeah,
No.
me either. That's not really the issue with me either.
We don't purchase from galleries very often.
Yeah,
We more often purchase in events where there is a charity function or, a special event. So, by and large, our purchases come from charity related functions.
yeah. Well,
there's a few that we did buy at a gallery, like the Gypsy Airs,
right.
and comes to mind. And frankly, we have a lot of stuff from the Penland annual auction. They have a fabulous auction that has just ended. Too bad for everybody, but it'll be back next year.
It'll be back next year. Here's another question. When you buy a work of art, do you typically have a place in mind for it, or you buy the work of art and then you figure out where it's going to go?
That's it. Yeah. As Walter kind of said, we really don't have a place for any more art. So if we do bring home something now, it's a very special piece.
Well, and then here is this feeds right into the next question, which is, how often do you rotate works of art in and out of your home installations? Do you do that, or once in the attic, always in the attic?
No, we have not done that, but I believe that we may start doing that. Walter retired about a year ago, and we had a lot of pieces in his office. So we brought all of those back home, and they're upstairs now. And I have been thinking that we need to go up there and pull some things out and see if we can find a place for them in the living area.
Well, we do that at the Dixon all the time.
Yeah.
I don't do it so much in our home. I should do it more. But at the Dixon, because we're so small, and because we do have more, we own more than we can possibly show, we're continually changing things out, and it really does feel good.
Well, I want your guy that does the hanging to come over to my house and rehang all of this stuff, because that's my major thing, is having to redo all of the hanging.
Yeah, you just buy a little spackle. Couldn't be easy. Couldn't be easier. But yeah, I'll put you together with his name is Jeff Goggins, and he's an incredibly talented art installer, and I'm happy to connect you there. So
Kevin, I would ask you the question, doesn't every museum have a back storage room?
I can't think of one that hasn't. I mean,
There you go.
you know, and some of them are vast, like the end scene of Raiders of the Lost Ark, you know, and then some of them are relatively tiny, like ours. But
And in that back storage room, aren't there some real gems that you forget about from time to time?
I don't really forget about them, especially if they're gems. If they're gems, they'll find the wall. But there's definitely some that I don't really consider gems that, you know, I don't try to forget about them. I just do forget about them. Okay, I got another question from the audience. So tell us this. Are the kids more interested in what you buy now that they know it's their inheritance?
You would have to ask them that. I don't know.
Short of any real cash money, I think they'll have to default to the art. So
There is a healthy competition for a couple of pieces.
Good.
we won't be here, so it's going to be pretty bloody. We don't care. Just I'll slug it out.
That's great. That's great. Well, yeah, I think that for the most part that wraps up our questions from the audience. But I just have to say, it has been delightful seeing your collection, seeing what you collect. I met Suzanne and Walter very early in my tenure at the Dixon. I mean, I think I was, you know, the first trip I led was a trip to Chicago, and you guys were on it, and you've been great supporters and great members of the Dixon. Suzanne is a tremendous volunteer in our gardens, and actually took our very messy gardens office in hand fairly recently, and thank you for that. I don't know that you've taught him anything, but don't give up. And we just appreciate what you're doing here. I mean, sharing your collection, sharing your instincts for collecting, your experiences. I would say the one thing that definitely filters through, you know, your art collection, that thread we were talking about earlier, is that everything you own means something to you, and there's a story associated with it, and that story is usually something of great pleasure or satisfaction or admiration for the artist, or eagerness to support them. And you've just been wonderful, and we're very, very grateful.
I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but I just have to say, there's something about original art that an artist's hand has actually touched whatever it is. I believe that spirit gets transferred, and it doesn't leave that piece. And then you put it in your home, and it just adds to the spirit of your home as well. There's nothing like original art.
No, you are so right. You are so right. We're getting lots of comments now about thank you. We've loved it. Someone has written that they particularly love the story about Tom Garrett, and gosh, I certainly do too. That, as I said in the recorded tour, it doesn't surprise me one little bit. And you know, Tom and Allison Garrett have a very nice collection too. So
I'm sure. I'd love to see their collection.
Well, you know, after this, you may get an invitation. Or maybe they'll do a home tour.
There you go.
So at any rate, thank you, Suzanne and Walter, and Eli, if you're still around. And
somewhere.
You were wonderful to do this, and we'll see you very soon at the Dixon, I'm sure.
Thank you so much.
We enjoyed being with you.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Take care. Take care, everybody. Thank you.
All right.
How you doing?
Really good job.
Thank you.
Great job, y'all.
Good job, you guys. Nicely done. I think it came off really, really well.